What's going on, y'all? How's your Friday going? Hope it's pretty good. It's not Friday for me, it's actually Tuesday that I'm recording this, but you're watching this on a Friday because as you're watching this video, I am in San Diego for TwitchCon, so I gotta have all these out ready to go beforehand. Regardless, Eastern Conference standings. I've been talking about teams for a while now. Let's give you some rankings, the conference seedings and all that good stuff. Number 1 seed, it's the Cleveland Cavaliers. We know this. LeBron's a beast. I hope LeBron rocks the mustache all season this year. There's a specific YouTube video of him against the Knicks. He's got a mustache and he has no sleeves or anything. It's the best thing in the world. We need LeBron to do that more often. I think LeBron, he might take a little bit of a step back this season, not because he's a worse player, but because, he's getting older. He's going to manage his body. I think Kyrie Irving is perhaps going to lead the team in points, and Cleveland's still going to be great. The loss of J.R. Smith, or the potential loss of J.R. Smith, he's not gone just yet, it could create a little bit of a void when it comes to outside shooting, because Shumpert is not the shooter that J.R. is. You also lost Dellavedova, who provided you with outside shooting. It's not going to matter. They're still the best team in the East. Number 2 seed, I'm going with Toronto still. I think the Raptors actually have a chance to be a little better than last year because DeMarre Carroll will hopefully be healthy for an entire season. DeMarre is a guy who can provide outside shooting, defend multiple positions. He's a veteran. He shoots well from the field. He didn't shoot well from the field last year, but he also wasn't healthy, so that alone I think can make them better. Another season of Norman Powell, which is very good. The second unit is still decently strong. You're looking at Corey Joseph, again Norman Powell. I don't know what Patrick Patterson's going to be doing, if he's going to be starting or coming off the bench. I would start him, but he's also been very good off the second unit for them. I think Jared Sullinger can be a nice 10 to 15 minute rebounder for them. And I'm also looking for Valanciunas to make a bit of a jump this season in terms of his presence around the basket. If he could develop more of a post-up game, that would be awesome. But just in terms of being big, I think Valanciunas can make a hell of an impact for them. He was very good in the playoffs, so hopefully it can translate to the regular season. And of course, Kyle Lowry and DeMar DeRozan, one of the best backcourts in the NBA, so Toronto's going to be good. Number 3, the Boston Celtics. Of course, they signed Al Horford, and the starting lineup of Isaiah Thomas, Avery Bradley, Jay Crowder, Al Horford, and Amir Johnson, that's really damn good. You're looking at outside shooting from Isaiah, Bradley. Hopefully Crowder's three-point shooting can improve a little bit more. And then Horford has stretched his shooting out to the three-point line. He's also a very good mid-range shooter as a big man. He's also a damn good passer, which will fit in beautifully with what Brad Stevens is going for. And then from a defensive standpoint, Bradley, Crowder, Horford, and Amir Johnson, I mean, that's beautiful. And then you're looking at Marcus Smart off the bench, Jaylen Brown off the bench. This team definitely has a chance to be one of the best defensive teams in the NBA. And then, of course, Brad Stevens is going to run a lot of stuff for Isaiah Thomas to get into the paint with handoffs as well as pick and rolls. I mean, the Isaiah Thomas, Al Horford pick and roll is going to be very difficult to defend because Horford can shoot from everywhere, Isaiah can shoot from everywhere, but also Horford's a damn good passer, so even if you bring extra help defense to negate what Horford's doing, he'll hit the open guy. He's averaged around 3 assists for a long time as a big man. Now, I have some concerns for the Celtics. I'm concerned about their scoring off the bench by everybody not named Kelly Olynyk. And then I'm also concerned about the rebounding, because while Horford and Amir Johnson are both very good defenders, neither one of them even cracks like 9 rebounds a game. So that is a concern, especially when they're going up against the 4th seed, in my opinion, the Detroit Pistons, where Andre Drummond is a beast and a half on the boards. Now, Andre, he does need to improve on his rim protection as well as his low post game, but he's mastered the ability to run, jump, dunk, set screens, rebound as a big man, and I think he can progress on those other areas. Besides that, Reggie Jackson has become a very good pick and roll partner with Andre Drummond. He's also stretched his three-point percentage out to about 36%, which is pretty damn good. And Reggie Jackson's ability to get inside and finish at the rim, get to the free throw line is very good. Hopefully he can get a little more efficient this season. And then besides that, Tobias Harris was a very good player down the stretch for them, averaging about 17 points, shooting well from the field. Marcus Morris is in the Draymond Green school of can defend multiple positions, can hit from outside, is also tough as nails as well. Questions for Detroit are, Is Kentavious Caldwell-Pope's jumper going to be a thing? Because if it is, then he's one of the better shooting guards in the league because he's a damn good defensive player. And then is Stanley Johnson's jumper going to progress as well? They also signed John Lohr, who I think is a very good stretch 4 option next to Andre Drummond. I love Ish Smith as the backup point guard. There's a lot of things about these Detroit Pistons that I really like. And of course, Stan Van's one of the best coaches in the league. I think the ability for Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, Tobias Harris, Marcus Morris, as well as Stanley Johnson to be guys who can switch pick and rolls, I think that'll be very effective for them. And I like them a lot. The 5th seed, the Charlotte Hornets. A Steve Clifford coach team is not going to beat themselves. They don't turn the ball over, they don't foul, and they don't give up too many offensive rebounds, which is weird because when you look at their team, they don't really have anybody who's a big-time defensive rebounder, but right positioning, they know how to box out. And also, Kemba Walker made a jump last season. He can play isolation, he can play pick and roll, he can play off-ball a bit too, which is good because Nicholas Batum is a very good ball handler at the wing position. And I expect Kemba to keep on making really big shots for the Hornets this year. I did mention Nicholas Batum, who is a bit of a switchblade on offense because he can hit from outside, he can make a pass, he can rebound. I really wish he would stop taking the weird leaning mid-range elbow jumpers, but I think that's just going to keep on happening. There's also MKG, who's coming back at the small forward spot. He showed some life as a three-point shooter in an extremely small sample size of 7 games. I don't know what to expect from him there, but they're definitely a better team when he's in the game. And part of that is because he's one of the best defensive players in the league, but he's also a smart offensive player in the sense of he knows what he can and can't do. Unfortunately, what he can't do is a pretty big deal, but there's still better when he's in the game, there's no doubt about it. Marvin Williams, also in the Draymond Green school of being able to defend multiple positions as well as hit from outside. And the trio of Nicholas Batum, Michael Kidd-Gilchrist, and Marvin Williams, those are also 3 guys who are going to be able to switch a lot on defense. Now, the center position is the question for them. Frank Kaminsky seems to be the guy. I think he can be a stretch 5 for them, which is valuable, but at the same time, from a physical standpoint, defensively, can he hang with other big bodies down around the rim? That's definitely a question. I think these guys could be like a center by committee sort of team where Frank Kaminsky will play about 10 to 15 minutes at center, Roy Hibbert will play about 10 to 15 minutes at center, same thing for Spencer Hawes. Is it the ideal situation? No. But the other positions are pretty damn good. I also trust Steve Clifford to figure it out. Now, they did lose Courtney Lee, and that's not ideal. They kind of sort of replaced him with Marco Bellinelli. I mean, the shooting is there, the defense is definitely not there. But at the same time, just getting Michael Kidd-Gilchrist back, I think these guys are going to be very good defensively. And then offensively, I think they'll be good enough. Again, Steve Clifford plays a huge role in this. And yeah, I think they're the 5th seed. 6th, the Indiana Pacers. Look, I'm not a huge fan of a lot of the things the Pacers did this offseason. And I will say the head coaching change going from Frank Vogel to Nate McMillan, from an idea standpoint, it's not too different. Like Vogel was a defensive-first coach whose offense was not super creative. It was a bit on the basic side. So you're going to Nate McMillan, who's a slow-paced, defensive-first coach. So the mentality is pretty similar. But now let's get to the roster changes. George Hill to Jeff Teague. Is it a little bit of an upgrade on offense? Yes. I mean, Teague can beat guys off the dribble a little bit more, and he can play in the pick and roll a little bit more too, but you're losing a decent amount on defense there, man. George Hill is a damn good defensive player, and Teague is just not. That's going to hurt him. But also, the duo of Jeff Teague and Monte Ellis, that's one of the more mediocre defensive backcourts in the NBA. Not to mention Monte Ellis was not good last season. And also, if Jeff Teague drives inside, which he does a lot, and then Monte Ellis is the guy spotting up in the corner, he's not a good three-point shooter, at least he wasn't last year. He has had some decent three-point shooting years in the past, so maybe he can get up to around 36%. But if Monte is going to be the guy who's just not effective from 3, the defense is just going to leave him on an island. They're going to go bog down the paint once Jeff Teague and Paul George drive inside. And that's going to be tough. Now, I do think CJ Miles playing over Monte Ellis at the 2-guard spot could help. But at the same time, CJ is not that good of a defensive player either. So he might help you on the offensive side of the floor. He's not really going to help you on the defensive side. Now, of course, Paul George is a beast. He's one of the best players in the NBA. And he could be the second best player in the Eastern Conference. But I don't think he's going to single-handedly carry this team to like 50 wins. And then you're looking at the power forward position. They acquired Thad Young. I like Thad Young, okay? He's more athletic than most power forwards in the league. He's very good up and down the floor. Damn good finisher inside the paint. Also a nice rebounder at 9 per game. But he can't stretch the floor either. He's had a couple of three-point shooting seasons in the past, but it hasn't been for a minute. And he's predominantly effective around the rim. So now you're having two guys in him and Monte Ellis who the defense can leave to provide help defense when Jeff Teague and Paul George drive. There could very well be some spacing issues with the Indiana Pacers. Now I will say Miles Turner at the center position, he's definitely shown the ability to be an outside shooter, at least from mid-range. So I could see a world where he's the one providing spacing and Thad Young is predominantly around the basket. And I think there's some life there. They also acquired Al Jefferson, who I'm not really much of a fan of anymore. He can score in the low post, but I mean, he's not going to do much defensively for you. You ask him to step outside of the paint to play defense, and it's pretty much a lost cause. I don't know, I think the combination of spacing issues and probably getting worse on defense. Listen, Paul George can only do so much, guys. He needs a team around him, and I don't know if this is the team for him. I'm going with the Atlanta Hawks at 7. I think there is going to be a drop-off. Kyle Korver's getting worse. He's still not a defensive player. Kent Bazemore is not a consistent defensive player. You're going to Dennis Schroeder, who I think can also have trouble on defense. But also, Atlanta's going to have to adjust to Schroeder because he's a little bit more wild than Jeff Teague was. I mean, Teague became pretty comfortable within that Atlanta system, and Schroeder's going to be a bit of a monkey wrench in that thing. Not to mention you're going from Al Horford to Dwight Howard, and I think Dwight can still be good, but he's not the passer that Al Horford is. He's nowhere near the versatile offensive player that Al Horford is. I mean, Dwight's pretty much just going to be around the basket doing pick and rolls and stuff, and I think the combination of Paul Millsap and Dwight can play off of each other well, but I think it's definitely a decrease from Al Horford. It is an increase on rebounding, and that's a good sign, but I think overall, I think Atlanta's going to be a little bit worse this year, even if Paul Millsap is still going to be like a top 20 player in the NBA. And now the 8th seed, I'm kind of cheating a little bit because I'm going to put the Washington Wizards here with a little bit of a disclaimer. If Bradley Beal is healthy, these guys will definitely be a mid-tier Eastern Conference team in my opinion. But Bradley Beal has not been healthy in a long time. He played like 50-something games last year. So it's kind of impossible to predict what the Wizards are going to be. Like if Bradley Beal's healthy, they're going to be up there. If he's not healthy, they're going to be towards the bottom. Now if Bradley Beal misses an extreme amount of time, then I think you could be looking at the New York Knicks or the Orlando Magic getting into the 8th seed, or somewhere towards the bottom of the Eastern Conference playoffs. So there's your top 8. The 8th seed's pretty weird, I know. Now let's go into all the teams who I don't think are going to make it. Let's talk about everybody. Philadelphia, they're going to be exciting as all hell, but they're a few years away. Brooklyn, no. Orlando, I think the Magic, they're in a state of transition, and I'm a fan of Elfrid Payton's. I do think he can be a good pick-and-roll player and a defensive player and all that, and I think Evan Fournier can be a big-time scorer. I don't know what the small forward position is. If they're going to go with Mario Hezonja, I mean, it's his second season. He wasn't that great as a rookie. Now, given he didn't have a lot of opportunity as a rookie, he played about 16, 17 a game, but the roster was just, they didn't know what the hell to do with the team for a while. I also really like Frank Vogel as a hire, but I don't know. I think Hezonja might take a minute. If they're going to roll with Aaron Gordon at the small forward, I don't know what the hell that does because he's not a shooter at all, and he's a decent ball handler as a big man. I don't think he's a decent ball handler as a wing. And then you're looking at the front court situation. I really like Serge Ibaka, and I do like Aaron Gordon as a power forward, but there's also Vucevic and there's Bismack Biyombo. There's a lot of shuffling that needs to go on there. I think the Magic are going to have a little difficulty figuring out who they really are, and by the time they do it, it might be a little too late. But it is a talented roster. I think I just like Washington a little bit more if Beal is healthy. The New York Knicks, listen man, I have a tough time believing that Derrick Rose is going to be an efficient two-way point guard for them. He showed signs last year. I don't know if he can do it for an entire season. From a defensive standpoint, the only guy in that starting lineup who I'm really confident in to play defense is Courtney Lee, because Joakim Noah's had 1,000,005 injuries. And I think we can expect a decent jump from Porzingis, but I'm also concerned about sort of the hierarchy of that team. Are Derrick Rose and Melo going to be the main shooters of that team, and Porzingis is going to have to take a back seat? I don't think he should. I think he should be shooting as much as possible, but I think it's all on D Rose and what he can be, and he's had a lot of injuries, man, I gotta be honest. The Miami Heat, they lost a lot. They lost Dwayne Wade, they lost Joe Johnson, they lost Luol Deng, and there's also the Chris Bosh questions as well. Dragic and Whiteside are great, but you're asking Josh Richardson to take a significant jump when it comes to his scoring. I think Justice Winslow will end up being a great player, but from an offensive standpoint, second season, I don't know. Defensively, he's going to be awesome, but, there's more than just one side of the floor, of course. The Milwaukee Bucks, they lost Chris Middleton for 6 months, man. He was a big-time shooter for them. He was going to make the game so much easier for Giannis, because Giannis is going to be a beast at point guard, but now that he doesn't have the sharpshooter next to him to stretch the floor, I think that's going to be a huge blow for the Bucks, and I don't think they're going to be able to recover from it, honestly. There's still the Greg Monroe fiasco going on at center. I think they lost their chances at the postseason when they lost Chris Middleton. Now the Chicago Bulls, look, I think Dwayne Wade and Rondo is one of the more mediocre defensive backcourts in the NBA. And then we're, of course, talking about the spacing issues of Rondo, Dwayne Wade, and Jimmy Butler. I think Jimmy Butler and Dwayne Wade could figure it out, and I would actually like this team a lot more if you had a shooter/defender at the point guard position. But with all three of those guys, it's going to be tough. Nikola Mirotic is forced to be your starting four because you need some sort of shooting, and I do like Robin Lopez as a defensive center. But perimeter defense, outside shooting, I just don't think they got it. So I'm pretty sure I just talked about every single team in the Eastern Conference. This video is long as all hell. Oh, and by the way, the Cavs are going back to the finals. Newsflash for you. Alright, I'm done. See ya.